This is the part where we get a little bit vulnerable because I'm going to share the thing that I was most insecure about growing up. I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable, just a little bit. Good morning, church. What's up? How are you guys? I haven't done this in so long. Our Bible school just ended 2 weeks ago. For it, we are celebrating by getting a signet ring. It's something that really means a lot to me because of a memory that I've had in Bible school. And today we're going to be studying the book of Haggai as well, which is connected to that. So I'll tell you the story of why I'm celebrating my kind of first year graduation with a signet ring. Yeah, I'm just currently getting ready. Oh Lord, this is so gross. I'm just currently getting ready. Literally putting my socks on right now. Let's go. When you grow up in the Philippines, a little snow means the middle of winter. I wonder if this is too extra. It's not even. It's just drizzle. I don't know. Okay, I need a mask. Sometimes I'd really rather be comfortable than look cute. You just gotta know your priorities, right? There's no judgment here. Only God can judge me. Okay, let's go. At least I'm not wearing gloves, right? Even though it's cold and I always joke about how much I'm not a fan of it, every time it snows, I really love it because it reminds me of one of the things that I learned in Bible school, and that is that snow in the Bible, it represents truth that falls in winter seasons. So even though we're in the winters of our lives sometimes, even though we're in those cold seasons, there are truths that we can only learn in the winter seasons. Snow does not come in summer, you know? So I still rejoice in it. Rejoice in the Lord always. We're here. Thank you. There's a whale that ate Jonah. I wonder if Jonah's in there. I've already looked at every jewelry place here. The past couple of weeks I've been going back and forth just to see which one is the cheapest and the prettiest. It's not like there are so many signet rings, but I found the one I like. Now we're going there. I'm here for a signet ring. Oh Lord, you've added more. Can I film? Okay. What's your name? Sorry. Sammy. I am here.
What's the special occasion?
I graduated my first year in Bible school.
Wow!
Thank
Congratulations.
God we don't look like we've been through. Last year was a fire, now I'm gold. Walked out a survivor, out of the storm. It came down to the wire, almost let go. Last year was a fire, now I'm gold. Walk around like I'm gold.
By the way, I'm in the dad section. Aww. Getting the ring of my father. I don't know when did I start being so into jewelry, but it's just, everything is just so pretty. It's so pretty. Pretty. My hands are so dirty right now, I don't know. Actually, I know, but I'm too embarrassed to tell you why, but it's not like dirt. But look at this one. And we're getting it for like 25% off. I have the AMA card, so it's like a membership. Ate, what's that 60% off?
60% off? 60% are for the silver, 50% for the gold.
It's not included.
It's not, my dear. Don't push it.
Gotta give it to my children.
Yeah, you can pass along. That kind of thing, you can pass along to next generation.
Glow look good on you, the glow look good on you. Yeah. The glow look good on you, the glow look good on you. Walk around like I'm down. Glow look
Happy graduation! I'm learning more now to really celebrate myself, even for those small achievements. Like for example, whenever I get like every 100 subscriber, I get a new mug. Celebrating myself is really something that I've repented on. I've really had to change my mind about it, because if I don't celebrate myself, I feel like I am not celebrating what God is doing in my life. I'm really careful for it not to be self-indulging or anything. So there's just that. Welcome to Canada. Okay, so we are home. I have my signet ring. Another thing, on more than celebrating myself, God always tells his people to set up memorials, because we always have to live in remembrance of what he's doing. I was actually thinking just getting any signet ring, just cheap ones like this ones on my ears. First of all, I always like the song Ever Be, where it says, your love is devoted like a ring of solid gold. And it reminds me of his love that is devoted. It's been a full year of just me devoting my time for God. I got the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I got to know him more. I finished the Bible for the very first time. I got into Bible school. Oh Lord, looking back, the Nicole that went in and the Nicole that I am now is just so different. And you know how the Israelites, when they got out of Egypt, God told them to get gold and silver jewelry and clothing from the Egyptians, because that's how they plundered them. And they got out of Egypt with plunder, with gold. And I chose to get like a real gold one. This is my first gold jewelry. Oh Lord, I don't know when I started getting into jewelry, but I hope I don't get into it too much. Lord help me. Anyway, what was I saying? I decided to go in with the real jewelry because it just reminds me that whenever God takes us out of something, we always take something with us in it. Like he always lets us get the plunder for it. And this is just another reminder of plunder. Wow. This ring already means so much to me. And that's not even everything yet. We still have to study the book of Haggai. Okay, my hair is still wet. Anyway, I'm just currently getting the whole thing ready. I have my Bibles here. So this is my New King James Study Bible. I got it recently. I'm such a nerd, but I love it so much. And this is my reading Bible for the year. And this is where I also take my notes. And I have my YouTube notebook here, and I am doing my research on how to pronounce the book of Haggai. I think it's supposed to be Haggai, or some people also say Haggai, but I'm so used to saying Haggai because when we were supposed to memorize the chronological order of the whole Bible, I got so used to saying Haggai because it was easier for me to remember it. Like that was my trick on remembering the order of it. Like I would say Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, like Haggai. I don't know. So now I don't know. Anyway, I'm still so in love with my ring. I took it to work with me last night and I just can't stop looking at it. The signet rings of the kings before were either silver or gold, and that's just what I was reminded of when I was reading this passage, that I will make you like my signet ring, because as I took this to work with me last night and I was looking at it and I could see my reflection, and it just reminded me that if God wants to make us like his signet ring, well, guess what? How gold and silver are made. In Zechariah 39, what did God say? He said that I will refine them as silver is refined and test them as gold is tested. So if we are to be like God's signet ring, then we should expect ourselves to be refined as silver is refined and tested just like gold is tested. And do you know how gold is made? Do you know how gold jewelry is made? I heard an analogy before and it's the most beautiful, and it said that for a goldsmith to be able to purify the gold, what does he do? The goldsmith actually puts the gold into the direct fire. And when he puts it into the fire, that's when the impurities come. And I think that's just such a beautiful analogy of how God is testing us. I know that sometimes it feels like He is the one putting us into the fire and placing us there. But he says here, I will refine them as silver and gold is refined and tested. And when we're in the fire, that's when our impurities come out. And sometimes we feel icky, but that is when he is able to finally pick those things up. I know that there's that pride, like, let's get that out of you. There's that conceit, there's that selfish ambition that's blocking you from being who I want you to be and what I am purposing you to become. And there's no other way for the goldsmith to do that than put the gold in the fire. And every time that I would look at this ring, it just brings me to surrender. Like, it's been a day, and I'm like, I think I've stared at it for like hours now. It's just such a good reminder of God's process because it's gold. And he said that he is a refiner's fire. Notice that he didn't say that he is like a forest fire or anything, because the forest fire and just those wildfires are just completely destructive. But a refiner's fire, it refines you. Like a refiner's fire, it refines you. It has a purpose in it, and it is for you. It's not to destroy us. And that's just what I'm trying to remind myself always, to trust God's hand in the process and all of it. That even when I think that I am put in the fire, that he has a purpose for it. And lastly, I was looking at it last night. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm so obsessed with my ring. This is just how I am when I have something new. So I was looking at it last night, and I could see my reflection in it. And do you know how the goldsmith knows that the gold is actually finished in the refining process? Do you know how he knows that now he can take it out of the fire? He knows that the gold is finally purified and the process is finished when he looks at it and he can see his reflection in it. Like, I was looking at it last night and I was praying, like, God, when you look at me, I hope that at the end of all of it, you'll see your reflection in me. I hope that you'll see your son, that when you look at me, you can see yourself, you can see your kindness, you can see your meekness, you can see your love, your joy, your peace, your gentleness, your goodness, your ability to be long-suffering, your faithfulness. God, burn me faithful. God knows that he is finished with our purification process. When he can see his reflection in us, I know that this gold is finished with its purification process, that there are no more impurities in it. Why? Because I can see my reflection in it. There's a song by Maverick City, When I Lock Eyes with You, and it's like one of my favorite songs. I think I always cry whenever I hear it, but the song opens like, when I lock eyes with you, I see my reflection. And I hope that it is not just us singing that to God, that we can see our reflection in him, but also when he sings that to us, I pray that he can say that accurately, that when he looks at us, he can see himself, he can see his son in us, because he has purified us like gold is tested, and just like silver is refined, and he's beautiful.
If my life would sing a song.
How's that for our Bible study setup? You can go here. 1, 2, 3. That didn't work. Let's just go. Ow. Ow. Lord. This is the part where I tell you why we got a signet ring and why this means so much to me, apart from everything that I've told you already. I'm very sentimental in a sense. Like, my Bible has a section for answered prayers. My Bible has a section for favorite memories with God. I haven't filled it much. And then I have a section for dates to remember. This is entirely DIY, and I just put them here. And then I have a prayer board in like here. I'm not going to show you this one because oh Lord. So I put the tissue paper here that I was crying with. This makes me cringe now saying it, but really, like, looking at it, I'm taken back to that day that God gave me this word. And this really just revolutionized everything for me, because it reminds me of that very moment and that very season that I was going through something at home. I just only wanted to be like at church, and I was so thankful that every day we had to be at church for school, because it just really brought me peace to be around like the faith of other people, especially when you're losing your own faith. And so we have this morning prayer every time, an hour before our classes we would pray. And I remember that day I came to prayer. I was the first one, and I just headed straight to my prayer corner, and I just bawled my eyes out, like literally, not like, not even that kind of prayer, like, you know, that ugly cry where everyone just hears you and just like you're just sobbing. And I believe that I can tell this story without going too much into details with that, because there are also other many people involved in it, and this is not their channel. So if I want to make myself vulnerable, that's on me. But around that time, I was really so hurt about something that was going on at home, and every kind of negative feeling was just consuming me. There's the fear, the anxiety, the feeling of betrayal, the feeling of abandonment, the anger, like everything was just rising up and it was consuming me. And I'm like, Lord, I can't rise up above my emotions. And here I was trying to like put up all my walls and all my defenses, because like, yo, you're not coming near me or anything. And I was just like isolating myself, and I was just like in the corner, and I was feeling so defeated. But what made me cry that day, God was showing me that it's not just the superficial thing. Like, I was not only dealing with this thing that was happening at home, but the wound is deeper inside me. That I was not only feeling disappointed, but I felt so betrayed, and I felt like I was so abandoned and unwanted and all of those things. And so it wasn't really just I was just angry because of this thing that was happening. And I don't like anger. I really don't like being angry, and so when I'm angry, I'm just gonna cry. I was looking at other people and they were handling it so much better than I was, but I was realizing that, wait, why was it such a much bigger deal for me? And God just showed me like, hey, actually, there's this thing that we still have to deal with. I didn't know that I was dealing with insecurity and not just being upset. I thought that I was just feeling offended, but in reality, God was just like, actually, you're feeling betrayed and you're feeling abandoned, and that's why you're feeling all of those things. And I'm so thankful that God did not make me feel like I was wrong for feeling those things, that I was able to just process those emotions with him, that even if I didn't understand myself, like he just held me and actually made me understand myself. While I was crying that morning, before the music even played, before the prayer, before people even came to the prayer room, because like I said, I was the first one there, and one of my teachers probably heard me. Sometimes I cry in the prayer room and no one comes to me, but that day I'm so thankful that she came. She came to just like comfort me, and just she wanted to pray over me. And now, what I had been doing around that time was I started to call God like Father. I started to call God Father, because like, okay, I'm a grown-up now. I'm gonna stop calling you Abba, because Abba means daddy. And then I wanted to call him Father, because like, you know, it's more grown-up, it's more mature. And I'm like, I'm letting go of my childish ways. I was just trying to like be this big girl who can hold myself together, but yo, I can't hold myself together. That morning, oh man, my teacher, she kept praying for me, the spirit of adoption, that God would remind me that I am his child. And she went on again and again and again about that. And I couldn't help it anymore, and I just screamed Abba again and again and again and again. And I was just like a baby again. Grown up who? I was like a helpless kid just screaming out, Abba, help me. When she left me, I was still crying, and I was just processing all of it, and I realized that, yeah, Lord, it's not just me feeling upset, but it's actually my insecurity right now, that the battles are not outside of me. but it's actually one that's going on within me more than anything else. Like, I was trying to, like, Lord, do something about this, Lord, do something about this, but God's like, let me work on you first, because you're not handling it well, and you're allowing it to consume you. Growing up, there has always been this lie that no one wanted me, that no one prayed for me, that I was not anyone's first choice, and I was not really supposed to be here. I've really had to battle all of those lies. My parents had me before they got married, and growing up, I only felt like I robbed people of their lives. I felt like I robbed my mom of her life, because growing up, I've seen the hardships that they face, the pain, the hurt, everything, just the ugliness of all of it. I realized that, oh, maybe if I wasn't conceived or anything, that none of this would have happened. And I really blamed myself for everything that was going on around me. When I became Christian and when we moved here, I just witnessed how there were so many people, especially in our church, were asking to get pregnant, for babies, to have children. When I saw how people prayed to have children, I was like, wait, I wasn't prayed for like that. Like, no one prayed for me. No one really wanted me. In a sense, I always assumed that they just like, yeah, she is here now, let's just put up with her or anything. And it's not like they made me feel this way or anything, because my mom loved me. I grew up so loved. I grew up with having my parents sacrifice so much for me, but I always felt like I was robbing them of their lives, because they were doing that for me just because of the insecurity inside of me that, hey, they did not choose me, they did not choose for me to be here. And this is also why I promised myself that when God willing, He would give me children, that I'm really going to pray for them. And actually, like, I started already praying for my children. I'm praying for them every single day. They're not even here, because I don't want them to feel the way that I feel. And then when my teacher left me, after she prayed for me, I grabbed my Bible and I held it and I just opened it. And it opened here. It opened to Haggai 2, and this is the last page, and there's nothing here. I just wrote this, and it's just like this small thing. And usually I would go somewhere that I know what it is about to say. Like, I would go to a promise to, because I know that will uplift me. But that day I felt called to really read where my Bible opened to. And let's read it together, shall we? The word of the Lord came to Haggai a second time on the 24th day of the month. Okay, I'm like, Lord, what are you trying to say here? Okay. And then, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah. I am going to shake the heavens and the earth. And I'm like, yeah, Lord, it feels like everything's shaking right now. Thank you very much. Like, Lord, I don't know, but I'm going to read more. He said, I will overturn royal thrones and destroy the power of Gentile kingdoms. I will overturn chariots and their riders. Horses and their riders will fall, each by his brother's sword. And then I read verse 23. It said, on that day where everything is shaking, on that day where everything is falling down, where everything is crumbling down, on that day, this is the declaration of the Lord of armies. And remember, I was crying, bawling my eyes out at this point, even though I was not understanding what God is trying to say here. And then he said here, I will take you, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, my servant. I will take you. This is the Lord's declaration. And when the Lord declares something, when a president releases a declaration for the whole country, like that entire country must subject to it, because it's the president, because it's the king, right? And how much more when God declares something? He said, my words don't come back to me empty. Like, his words are powerful. So he said, like, I will take you, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, my servant. This is the Lord's declaration. And make you like my signet ring. And what did he say after that? For I have chosen you. And when I read this, he said, for I have chosen you. You bet I cried more. You bet I cried more. Like, during that time, I felt like, hey, no one really wanted me. No one chose me. I was no one's first choice. And God's just like, Yeah, they may not have planned you, they may have not chosen you. It doesn't matter who chooses you and who doesn't. Because you know what? I have chosen you. I have chosen you, and that's all that really matters. And in that moment, in a single moment, all the insecurities that I've had growing up, all the lies that I've had to battle with, they just bowed down at God's word. They just had to bow down at the foot of the cross. And it wasn't like I chose this word for myself and I'm like, Lord, he said, I have chosen you. When I was crying, Lord, no one chose me to be here, and I'm so insecure about all of these things, and I can't rise up above my own emotions. He's just like, hey, I have chosen you. When I just felt defenseless against my insecurities, when I couldn't stand up for myself because I wasn't really in the place to, I still had to give honor to whom honor is due, you know? And when there was nowhere that I could turn to, God just proved to me, just with His word, that He was my defender. And this is really what I learned in Bible. This is really what I was thankful for to have learned in Bible school, to not just like, pray for things, but to pray about things. It's not just like, God give me this, God do this, God do that, God give me that. But no, I was like, Lord, this is happening. Lord, there's this thing. Lord, there's that thing. And Lord, this person is doing this and that. Lord, you see this, all of it. And that's what I learned. I learned to pray about things and not just pray for things. Like, yes, I still pray for things, obviously, but it's different when you're going through a certain situation with God now. As I immersed myself in His Word, I learned that He really speaks through His Word and that this Bible is living and alive. My signet ring is just like, it doesn't have any stamp on it, but I'm going to read from my New King James Bible about the signet ring. Signet rings were used in the ancient Near East to sign one's name. The impression of the ring would be pressed into wax or clay to sign legal documents. And in here it says the signet ring was like an identification card or badge in the ancient world. It symbolizes status or position and the binding nature of the authority attached to items sealed by the ring. So when God said, I will make you like my signet ring because I have chosen you, it's just like He restored my purpose to me during that moment, because the signet ring, it signifies His authority. Jesus said, all authority on heavens and the earth was given to Him, and He has given us that same authority because His Spirit is in us. That as the Father sent Him, so He sends us, that we have authority to trample over snakes and scorpions and every insecurity and death and sin, that none of it has power over us now because of what He did on the cross. And the signet ring is what kings used to seal. And I just remember, where is the signet ring? If God is making me His signet ring, where is the signet ring? It's in His hand. So I am always in God's hand, and I am a symbol for His authority. How we use our signatures now, this is how they use the signet ring. They would have their inscription in here, and then they would dip it into wax, and then they would sign the paper or the document, and they make their declarations with it. When Peter said that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God, what did Jesus said to him? Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you lose on earth will be loose in heaven. And that is also something that I held on to, that my words have power in them, that when I utter something, what I bind here on earth is bind in heaven, what I lose here on earth is loose in heaven. The king's ring is our ability to act and speak on behalf of the king. And when God gave me the word, I'll make you like my signet ring, it's just like Him saying, you bear my authority, you bear my name, I am your banner. So it is the Lord's seal that no matter what was happening around me, He said, I will make you like my signet ring. No matter what was happening all around me, my life will still be a proof that God is in control. My life will still be a proof that God is sovereign above all of it, that God is in authority. And that is why whenever I look at this ring, I am reminded of so many things that God has taught me, and I'm just reminded of His goodness. I've been feeling like a prodigal lately, but in the midst of me being prodigal, feeling like I was rebelling against God's will, and me feeling like I was being very prideful, that is also when God gave me this ring, when God allowed me to get this ring for myself, and he just reminded me, hey, do you remember the story of the prodigal son? And I'm like, yeah. What did the father do when the prodigal son came back to him? His father gave him three things: a robe, a sandal, and the ring in his finger. He restored his son's authority. He restored his son's purpose. He restored the status of his son as a son, because the prodigal son was just coming back like, hey, make me your servant, please. Hire me as your worker. Just let me live in your house. But the father is just like, what do you mean? You're my child. Come here. You have my authority. And so, yeah, that was the reason why I got a signet ring. I'm so thankful to have gone through Bible school. And now it's ended, but I will always have something to remind me of what I learned, of what I experienced, of how God walked with me through all of it and just the seasons of life, and I will always wear it. So yeah, thank you so much for being here with me today. I pray that God spoke to you in a way through this video somehow, and that my words have been life-giving, because those weren't my words, those were God's words. And if you're into Bible studies and talking about God and theology and churchy things, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And if you like this video, I hope that you could give this video a thumbs up. God bless you, and bye-bye.
Please stay pure for me. Oh yes, know that I adore thee.